15 Parfum de Marly clones and alternatives. Coming up. Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and for today, as I said, I prepared a list of 15 affordable clones and alternatives to Parfum de Marly original scents. Now the order that I'm going to go through in today's video showing you the fragrances will be in the same order that I actually enjoy the original fragrances that the clones and alternatives are based upon. And so I'm going to start with what's cloning my least favorite scent from the brand of Parfums de Marly. The clone fragrance is called Amber Zest and it comes from the brand of Ajmal, and the original scent that this has been inspired by is called Parfum de Marly's Haltane. Now this is not a straight up clone of Haltane, this feels a little bit fresher, feels a little bit greener than Haltane, maybe even a little bit more balsamic. It lacks a bit of the depth and the sort of the agar oud woodiness of the original scent, but other than that this actually smells quite similar to Haltane. But again, Haltane is probably my least favorite fragrance from the brand of Parfums de Marly, and that's the reason why I haven't really been enjoying Amber Zest from Ajmal that much. Other than that, this is you know, an okay fragrance, has a pretty decent performance and projection, usually can be found for a decent price, and all around this is the you know, alternative or a clone of Haltane that I'm going to start today's video with. The next fragrance that I'm going to show you comes from the brand of Armaf, and it's called Armaf Craze, and it comes in this very ugly looking bottle, and the original scent that this is based upon is of course Parfum de Marly's Pegasus. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Pegasus, I've said this many times before. For me, Pegasus has always smelled a little bit too unisex for my taste, a little bit too powdery, a little bit too nutty. The original is known for having this you know, almond note that goes along with the vanilla note. You get some spices, some woodiness, and you know, Armaf Craze actually gets very close to the original scent, maybe feeling a little bit sweeter than the original. It's very inexpensive and also has a pretty good performance and projection as well, and that's pretty similar to the original fragrance. And all around, this actually is a very decently done clone of you know, Parfum de Marly Pegasus for next to no money pretty much, because this oftenly you can find this one for a very cheap price. The next one, the next original fragrance from Parfums de Marly, in the order how much I like, is actually you know, Pegasus Exclusif. It's the original is slightly darker, slightly sort of less powdery and sweet compared to the OG Pegasus, and that's why you know, I enjoy that one a little bit more over Pegasus itself. And the alternative for a clone of Pegasus Exclusif that I'm going to show you today comes from the brand of Maison Alhambra, and it's called Perseus Exclusif. And you know, this is an okayish clone of Pegasus Exclusif. Now again, lacks a bit of the depth, lacks a bit of the darkness and the woodiness of the original scent. This feels slightly lighter, and in fact it feels somewhere in between Pegasus and Pegasus Exclusif. But because it lacks a bit of that powdery nature of Pegasus, and because it lacks a bit of the sweetness of Pegasus, I've been enjoying Perseus Exclusif a little bit more compared to something like Armaf Craze, for an example. Offers pretty decent performance, nowhere near as strong as the original fragrance, but still for its very low price, this actually is you know, a pretty decent performer, and you know, the quality is pretty decent. So all around, this is a very decent alternative to Pegasus Exclusif. The next one in order will be a clone of Parfum de Marly's Carlisle, and the you know, the clone or the alternative comes from the brand of Zimaya, and it's called Red Carpet Paragon. Now the Paragon series are a series of fragrances that all of them are cloning Parfum de Marly scents, and Red Carpet Paragon again feels quite a decently done clone of Carlisle itself. Now I know Carlisle is not the most liked or sought after Parfum de Marly scent, to be honest, but I actually enjoy it more than the previous three that I showed you today. This is a very interesting scent that has a bit of a citrusy you know, notes. It has a very interesting sort of a blood orange note that feels a little bit fresh, but at the same time feels quite sweet. It's also has a bit of a spicy and woody nature somewhere in the background. It's a very interesting scent, and you know, for me, Red Carpet Paragon is actually a very decently done clone of Carlisle itself. offers, you know, a slightly above average performance and projection, but at the same time costs, again, next to no money. The next one comes from the brand of Broca, and it's called Nexa Immortal. And this one is a clone of Parfum, not exactly a clone, but something like an alternative to Parfum de Marly's Greenly. Now, this feels like slightly less sweet, slightly less fruity, a little bit more of a greener and slightly more floral take on the, you know, the DNA of Greenly itself. Now, Greenly is a very sort of a versatile fragrance that can be worn pretty much all year round, and a lot of people will argue that doesn't feel very niche, the scent profile. And Nexa Immortal actually, you know, gets decently close to the original fragrance scent-wise. The problem with this one is the fact that it's not a very strong performing scent. Initially, it projects nicely, but you know, very soon after that, it will become more of a skin scent than anything else. But again, it's very, very inexpensive and you know, feels green, feels fresh, and very easy to wear, and also is very, very cheap. The next one in line will be the original scent in line will be Parfum de Marly's Oajan, and the clone that I'm going to show you in today's video comes from Fragrance World, and it's called Legion, and as you can see, bottle wise looks very similar to Oajan itself. Now, Oajan you know, usually gets compared to something like a Kilian's Angel Share because it has a bit of a boozy note, it has quite a bit of sweetness, but this one feels a little bit more fruity sweet, I mean the original fragrance. And Legion actually again gets pretty close to the original scent, you know, scent-wise. It lacks the depth though, it lacks a bit of the sweetness of the original. This feels a little bit more fruity, like having slightly less of a pronounced boozy note, at least so far. And you know, lacks a bit of the quality as well as you may expect out of this fragrance. But I've had this for about a week, maybe a week and a half or so, so I'm still not going to judge this one because I'm going to give it a little bit more time to sit around and macerate and maybe get a little bit stronger and better. But again, it's very inexpensive and will get you decently close to you know, to Oajan itself. So the next original scent from Parfums de Marly that I'm going to show you an alternative for is called Sedley, and it's another of those fresh, you know, fruity, citrusy based fragrances that are very easy to wear, that are very versatile, very masculine, and work all year round. The alternative comes from the brand of Maison of Lattafa, excuse me. It's part of the Maahir line, and it's called Maahir Legacy, and is bottled in a very unique style. You know, a very interesting and super heavy bottle that can serve as a weapon if you wish so. And the scent itself is very nice, again, very fresh, very citrusy, aromatic as well, has a bit of a fruity sweetness, has some spices in it, some woods, and some sweetness on the dry down. Very, very likable scent, very easy to wear, and also has surprisingly good performance for the scent profile, the fresh scent profile that it carries. Usually can be found for a very decent price as well, and all around this has been a very nice addition to my collection and a very nice alternative to Sedley itself. Now from here on in, actually you know, ranking the original scents becomes really hard because now I'm getting into the territory of the original fragrances from Parfums de Marly that I really enjoy a lot. But the next one that I'm going to give you this time around, two alternatives, will be Parfum de Marly's Herod. A very nice, you know, tobacco-based fragrance with lots of sweetness, some spices, some oud, some incense. A very, very nice fragrance, and I really like the original. And the great alternative that I'm going to show you is a straight-up clone. It comes from the brand of Maison Alhambra again, and it's called Hercules. And this one is one of the best creations of Maison Alhambra because it gets very, very close to the original fragrance, carrying pretty much the same scent, especially in the air, smelling very, very similar to the original fragrance. Again, having the sweet tobacco, having the other added sweetness, a bit of the oud, some of the spices. Very, very nice scent. The problem with this one is that it's not a very good performer. Unfortunately, just like the original fragrance, it's not bad when it comes to total longevity, but it just does not project really nicely. But again, that's pretty much the same things can be said about the original. Now, if you want something done in a similar style, but that doesn't feel like a straight up clone, then maybe you can check out Armaf Radical Brown. Now, this one is not a straight up clone of Herod. This to my nose feels like a mix between Herod itself and something like L'Homme Ideal Extreme. Again, having a bit of tobacco, having some sweetness, some woods, but this one having a little bit more of a fruity sweetness, something like a cherry note that adds, that makes the scent a little bit different, but at the same time, you know, done in a very, very similar style. Again, a very likable scent, very easy to wear, very nice for cold weather, but again, this has pretty much the same problem as, you know, Herod and Hercules. It just does not perform that well. Total longevity is good, but it just does not project really that strongly, but it's very inexpensive and it's a very likable scent. The next original fragrance from Parfums de Marly that I'm going to give you an alternative for will be Parfum de Marly's Layton Exclusif, and the alternative, the very cheap alternative, comes from the brand of a fragrance world and Athoor Al-Alam, and it's called Anaqeed. And this is a surprisingly good clone of you know, Layton Exclusif, carrying the very famous and likable Layton DNA, but made a little bit darker, made a little bit more niche, made a little bit more woody. There's an addition of an agar oud note in here, and you know, especially after some maceration, Anaqeed actually becomes a very, very nice scent, very likable, with very you know, respectable performance, and all around all that for a very affordable price. So the alternative for Layton Exclusif will be Anaqeed from Fragrance World. Now, up until recently, if you have asked me what is my most favorite fragrance from the brand of Parfums de Marly, I would have told you without thinking twice Layton, the OG Layton. But lately I've been enjoying another fragrance from that house a little bit more, so Layton is the next one in line. Now again, just like with Herod, I'm going to give you two alternatives, and both of them are clones with a little bit of a twist. The first one is the very famous Detour Noir out of the brand of Haramain, which feels very, very similar to the original fragrance, but to my nose, this just feels a little bit more minty, a little bit like having a little bit maybe stronger geranium note, and definitely feeling a little bit more minty than the original itself. And especially after a bit of maceration, this becomes really, really nice and quite close to the original, having very respectable performance and projection and all that for a very affordable price. And this is one of those very famous you know, clone fragrances and Parfum de Marly clone scents. But if you want something that's a little bit sweeter, maybe feels a little bit further away to the original, but maybe it's a little bit easier to wear, if you don't enjoy that geranium and that mint note in Detour Noir, then you can go with something like Royal Paragon, from the brand of Zimaya. This one feels a little bit more fruity, a little bit less minty, a little bit less green than Detour Noir and the original, and I find it a little bit easier to wear and maybe slightly more likable than Detour Noir, carrying a very similar quality to Detour Noir, but this one feels like having a little bit less of a performance, although still definitely, you know, above average, and it's a very, very cheap fragrance. When it comes to my most favorite Parfum de Marly fragrance, or at least the one that I've been enjoying the most lately, that one will be Parfum de Marly's Carlisle. I really, really like that you know, dark nature of the original fragrance, and because of that, again, I'm going to show you two clones or two alternatives for you know, for Carlisle. They come from two very famous you know, clone houses. The first one is called Cassius, comes from Maison Alhambra, and this feels very, very similar to the original fragrance, but again, maybe feels like a slightly lighter, slightly sweeter take on the original, lacks a bit of the spiciness, a bit of the darkness of the original in the opening, which again probably makes it a little bit more wearable for some people, which find the opening of Carlisle a little bit too dark and intense. Cassius, especially after some maceration, is a great clone of you know, Carlisle. But if you want something a little bit different, maybe something a little bit more boozy, but still feeling very close to the original scent, then you can go with something like Carlisle from the brand of Fragrance World. This one again feeling very similar to the original scent, but to my nose this just feels like a more boozy take and slightly more tobacco-y take on the original scent itself. Other than that, again, especially on the dry down, feels very similar, offers quite nice quality considering how cheap it is, and both of them actually are great performers. Now, they cannot touch the original when it comes to performance, but they are very strong scents, and at the same time they are very affordable. And probably right now you're wondering why I left the most hyped up clone of a Parfum de Marly scent right now, and that's Liquid Brun from Fragrance World and French Avenue. Well, I've not forgotten this one, I just wanted to leave it for last because everything else, pretty much everything else that I've showed you up to this point is very, very affordable, and Liquid Brun is slightly more expensive, but I think it's down to the fact that this has just received so much hype that, you know, prices have gone up, which is something that you would expect out of a hyped up scent. But Liquid Brun is actually a very, very good clone of Parfum de Marly's Altair. It's quite a simplistic scent, to be honest. Doesn't smell very niche, but at the same time is very likable, very easy to wear, and it's just a compliment magnet. It's a vanillic based scent that has quite a bit of cinnamon spiciness, has a bit of an orange blossom note, which gives it a bit of airness, maybe a hint of a floral touch, but basically it's down to the vanilla, benzoin, and the cinnamon with this fragrance. Simplistic, but at the same time works, you know, flawlessly pretty much, and will get you a lot of compliments. Liquid Brun also offers very nice quality and offers fantastic performance, but in order to reach that great scent profile and to reach that great performance, you'll need to leave this one to macerate. I had to wait for about a month before my bottle actually started to perform really nicely, and before the scent itself settled nicely. But after some maceration, I cannot deny the fact that Liquid Brun actually works absolutely fantastic. So guys, in today's video I showed you 15 Parfum de Marly clones and alternatives that are very, very affordable, maybe with the exception of Liquid Brun, which tends to be quite expensive at the moment. I hope that you found this video interesting to watch. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.